Michael. So Sarah Franklin, she's actually is the EVP and GM of Platform, Trailhead, and AppExchange at Salesforce. In her role, Sarah leads the Salesforce platform developer and education initiatives focusing on democratizing technology and education for ecosystems of customers, partners, and developers. Sarah is passionate about empowering everyone to pursue successful careers in technology and also bridging the skills and equality gaps by making technology and learning accessible to all. So please welcome Sarah Franklin. Thank you.
All right.
Wow, thank you for that. That sounds very, very impressive. um, and what an honor it is to be here with you all today. And this is very special for me because I live here in Oakland. I'm raising my daughters here in Oakland. And when they asked me to speak at this event, and it's the inaugural one, it could not have felt more special. And I'm also trying to do something new here today. So fingers crossed this all works, because we're going to do some stuff with the Zoom background. And first, to get started, I want to tell everybody, hi, I'm Sarah. And that was, thank you for that introduction. And what I want to do first and most importantly is start our time grounded in gratitude. And I don't know how many of you have been to Dreamforce or Trailhead DX or done our virtual events where we have our gratitude tree. And I wanted to bring that here with you today. This is a photo from Dreamforce where we had the gratitude tree, and people hang up, you wrote on your little cards. It's hard to navigate this, gotta learn my weather forecasting skills. Write things down that you're grateful for and hang them up. And it's something that I think that more so than ever we need to do, is channel that gratitude, because there's a lot of hard stuff, but there's a lot to be grateful for. I've personally here in Bay Area realized how privileged I was to just breathe clean air every day. So it's something I'm grateful for, but I'm really thankful to this whole team. I just tweeted about the incredible people that brought us here today, and just so much gratitude for all of you. So thank you. And this conference today is all about equity and inclusion in tech, and I am often asked to share my story as a female in tech, and my journey and how I went from this little girl here over here, just a little girl born and raised in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, and I meandered my way to be this person here today, which has a lot of fancy titles. And it's a journey that I share because it was a lonely journey. It was one where, as a woman, you were a minority. I was chemical engineering major at Virginia Tech, and biochemistry major as well. And there weren't, other women doing that same thing. And getting into tech, I reflect now backwards. I don't know what really gave me the strength or the courage to do that, but I did. And I share this story a lot with how I meandered through tech, how I have a passion for emerging technologies. Started at Salesforce a dozen years ago, literally 12 years ago, and have gone from being a senior manager when I was hired first time at Salesforce, all the way to being director, senior director, vice president, senior vice president, and today executive vice president, and also general manager. And it has been an incredible journey. But I share that because I used to think oh, I was strong, I did all these things, but I realized that's kind of actually a little bit of a boring story, and it's the inspiration isn't in the story. The inspiration is something that I have recently learned and understood a lot more, and reflected upon, and recognized privileges that I have that I didn't understand that I had, and the last year plus has really impacted me. And what I wanted to share today with many of you is some of the story behind my story. And this is something where along this journey, it's not written on the slide. This little girl, I was raised by a single mother and teacher. And, in the middle here, I always worked jobs to help, pay the bills for the family. And then, also in the middle here, I moved to California without my family, and I got married and became a mother. But then I also got a divorce, and I was a single mother. And that was part of this journey. That's not written here on the slide. And then I, went through, and I had another daughter, married again, but so I'm no longer a single mother. But these were things that I reflect upon, because the important part of the journey is that I learned resilience. Being a single mother, being a minority in tech, really helped me learn resilience. And actually, one of the things I messed up in preparing my Zooms, you'll see it later, but something that I tweeted about was when I was first starting my career, 25 years ago, was when I was applying for jobs with, a chemical engineering, biochemistry degree. I was told no. I kept all these letters, and I apologize, the photo's not here. It was supposed to be, but I messed up. And I applied to all these companies, and they kept telling me no. They kept saying, no, you're not qualified to work here. You're not what we're looking for. And I have this written down on these papers. It's actually quite interesting to reflect back. But the resilience was that when somebody told me no, I didn't accept it. I was like, well, you tell me no, you see what's going to happen, and I'm going to prove you wrong, or I'm going to rise to the example, or if I fail, I'm going to pick myself up and keep trying. And you need look no further than even today for an incredible role model in our world that's, God bless her soul, that she's somebody that also did not take no for an answer. And no is often, sometimes I find, one of the most empowering words. Somebody tells you no, what are you going to do? Are you going to say, okay? Or are you going to listen and try and go back and keep trying and keep working and keep thinking that you can? And that is resilience. When things get hard, you dig in, you say, okay, I'm going to do this. And I'm not alone. I'm going to find people to do things with together. And I was really impacted by her passing, because she was a powerful voice, and that, really, when Harvard Law said she couldn't go to law school there, she said no. And they said she couldn't practice law, she said no. And she, rose up. And that's something that resilience is something which is, that is when I reflect back in my history. Learning to be resilient was one of the most important things that I did. And it couldn't be any more relevant than today. I mean, today we are in crisis, health crisis, economic crisis, social justice crisis, leadership crisis. We're about to vote as a United States country, where that's feels like it's a crisis. People telling us we can't mail in votes and things. And so we're in a crisis. And just it was a few weeks ago, this is a photo I took driving over the Bay Bridge. No filters, sadly, not a sunset, sadly, noon, right? We were all here. We saw this. This was a manifestation that our world feels like it's burning down, raining ash upon us. And that's just the reality of the world that we are in. And we need resilience more than ever. We do. We need each other more than ever. And something I love about living in Oakland is that Oakland defines resilience. Oakland is a beautiful, beautiful place, and is sometimes, represented in the news, poorly. But I look at this town that we live in and its beauty, and how this is a photo of a reunion of the Black Panther Party. And, you rewind way back when we fought against injustice. We fought against things that weren't right and how to make change. That's what Oakland is. I mean, they even try to tell us that we can't barbecue. And what do? Like somebody tells us no, and we come together and we say, no, we can. And together we are strong. We are resilient. It's a powerful word. And no is an empowering word that helps you learn that resilience. And that is a way that just literally this week, you know, they're saying, no, you can't have justice, right? And we have to find our resilience together. And it's something which I'm very passionate about, you know, how we can work together, you know, make change together to do that. But I'll admit, you know, I wake up sometimes in my house and I feel depressed. You know, it's like, oh, this is so hard. You know, when the news about Breonna Taylor came out this week, I talked with Leah McGowan Hare, and she was like, I'm tired, you know, and I felt so helpless because I didn't even have words that I think were helpful. And but she told me something. She said, you know what you should do? You need to find that light, find that love in the city that you love. And your town, it's rising literally from the ashes, you know, the ashes that have fallen upon us. Just take a run down Broadway and see what you find. And I did. I went from my house and I went on a run down Broadway, and I use Strava. It's a really cool app, and they, like, when you take photos along the way, it shows you where. So like that was really neat. But I did this running mural tour. That's very hard to say. And I did that this week. And wow, I was so inspired. And it really helped me learn some of the foundational elements of how we can find that resilience and the things that we need to do. And this is proof. This was me. I'm going to show some murals, but this is me. I was trying to act all fancy in the photo, like trying to be part of the mural. You know, but I thought it was going to be hard to find these, but, you know, I literally just ran down and I started finding just incredible, beautiful art that has been so lovely, just put up everywhere in Oakland. And it's art that helps you realize, gives you strength to know that we need to find the light in this darkness. We need to find the strength to fight for justice. We need to find this together. And to do that takes a lot of courage. This mural, I loved, and people that know me know that I subscribe to, my core values are integrity, courage, and well-being. And courage is something that is so hard. You know, we all have, like right now I'm nervous. I'm like, what do they think of me? I hope this keynote's resonating. Because we all have that little imposter birdie that sits on our shoulder. And it says, you know, no, you shouldn't be here. Why are they listening to you? Why are you talking? What do you know? Who are you to be here? And you have to have that courage, you know, to stand up. And that is how you can be resilient, because you have the courage, you have the trust, you have the faith. If fear comes knocking at your door, you say, go away. I'm going to conquer you today, and I'm going to be resilient. And we have to speak up. You know, it also to speak up. I actually did this run on Wednesday, and I did it before the news broke about Breonna Taylor, and it was so interesting to me that this is something that we want. And, you know, it's hard when you look at the decisions that are happening in the world today, and that we all speak up and say, that's not right, whether it's for racial injustice or diversity in tech. It is something that we have to stand up and speak up about, and that takes courage. And that's something that we need to be with each other and help each other to do. And this mural really spoke to me as well, you know, stand up together, or stand together. And to me, this was like, you know, it's not just about when you stand up that's going to be doing that, but often we need somebody to start to stand up. And then when you stand up, have faith, have trust, have just know in your soul that others will stand up with you. And even if they don't have the courage yet to do that, you are an example and you are their light. And that's what we need. We need to be the light, to help others see the light so they can believe, so they can come into the light with us. And we need to stand up. And if we just wait, you know, then nobody would do it. And that was a very powerful, powerful mural that I saw. And we need to then take action. You know, we can't just stand there. We have to act, and we have to, you know, think of things that might be, you know, local events, but they have global impact. And we have to speak up and stand up and act. You know, we can think globally and act locally. And it's very important that we don't just, you know, have words, but they really do take actions. And that we look at whatever platform it is that you have, you know, whatever way you have to act. It could be big, it could be small, it doesn't matter. Everybody needs to act. And that's how we, you know, together, I believe that together we can be the change. Those who know me know that I subscribe to the Gandhi belief of be the change you wish to see in this world. And it's hard, it takes courage often when it's not the majority opinion, or it's the subjected opinion to abuse or discrimination. And you just have to believe, whether it's our climate, whether it's our social justice, whether it's our industry and our hiring practices, if there are things that need to be changed in this world, you need to act it, you need to speak up about it, and you need to stand up for it. And those are very important things that you need resilience to do. And so that story that I shared about myself, you know, my life, resilience. I'm so thankful to my again, whether it's changing the ratios in tech or fighting for social justice or trying to save our planet, there's so much that we need to do. And so that was my tour through Oakland, just down the street. And those lessons, I wanted to give a few stories that are they're less grand. You know, I'm not at like RBG level here of impact, but they're true stories that have happened, where I can just give you some examples. So speak up, ask questions. This is something that I don't know many of you that know this, and it's actually interesting that on this slide here, we have like all of our Trailblazer hoodies. I'll share a personal story. This was, I guess, maybe 5 years ago now, or maybe six. I was in a review with Mark Benioff on trying to do our first inaugural Trailhead DX, our first developer conference. And we had like 45 days to put this together. I'm not joking. And Mark was like, well, what do we call ourselves, this and that? And this was at a time at Salesforce. I don't know if many of you know, but Mark was not super stoked on our brand. He was like, it's blue and boring and nothing else going on. It's not differentiated. And I said, Mark, we call our people Trailblazers. And he just looked at me super weird. He was like, okay, what is she like talking about? And he left the meeting. And that night I felt very passionate about this. And I wrote a manifesto that I sent to Mark at like midnight. And it was, I call it my Jerry Maguire moment, because I was a bit provocative in what we should do. And I debated for 30 minutes. I stared at my phone, like, do I send it? Do I not? Do I send it? Do I not? And I was like, screw it, send, done. And then I was like, oh my God, what did I do? But then the next morning, Mark replied, approved aloha Mark. It's 3 words that fundamentally changed my trajectory at Salesforce. It changed the face of our company. And he completely pivoted our whole company to be about Trailhead and Trailblazers and empowering people to do incredible things. It's even written in his book. It's in that Trailblazer book he did. Like I made like a paragraph in it, my claim to fame. But if I had not had that courage to like stand up for something and to write that email, I mean, he could have said no. He could have said, Sarah, you're weird. But I didn't, and I was prepared. You know, I knew I would be resilient if he said no. And so that's just a simple story of like, if you have something, you gotta speak up, gotta say it, you gotta ask questions. I shared this story about, we were doing a keynote review with people that, you know, I won't say their names, but people within our team. And one of the presenters, she was going through it. And at the end of the keynote, I was like, I don't understand what you just did. I don't understand what you said. And then everybody else in the room was like, oh my God, I didn't either, but I was so scared to say something. I was so scared because I didn't want to look stupid, you know? And so that simple thing of just knowing, like trusting yourself, like trust yourself. If you think something, if you feel something, speak up, ask the question, because likely other people have those same questions. That's some very practical advice. Next is, you know, stand up. I'll share a story that I've never spoken publicly about, which was, this was again, I don't know if it was maybe 3 years ago. I did an inventory of our keynotes that we were doing at Salesforce, at Dreamforce, which many of you have probably been to. And I made a little quick document of who stepped on the stage first. You know, not who was in the keynote, but who showed up first, right? And we had like some 20 keynotes, and guess what gender, you know, all of them were started with, who was led by, it was men. And there was a lot of women in it for sure, you know, but I was like, wow, this is something. And I wrote this down, and I stood up for it. And I went up to my boss, Brett Taylor, and I was like, look at this. And I showed Parker Harris, I was like, look at this. And they're like, oh, we didn't think of that way. And they're like, well, go, you know, go fix it or something. And I felt very alone. You know, I felt like, okay, what are we going to do? And then that next year, I was like, our developer keynote, we're going to have, you know, I'm so excited that we're going to have, and that's the year that Margaret Francis got on stage and she led our developer keynote. And and then last year, like I did the platform keynote and the developer keynote, and that was a monumental thing to me to see like a female like standing up. So like, again, you may feel like you're the only one, but standing up for something you believe in, I think is important. And then use whatever platform you have to act. I feel so much privilege to work at Salesforce and to live in such a great place. And I recognize privileges that I have that I didn't appreciate, or I didn't understand how much privilege I had before, you know, being a white cisgender female. And it's my responsibility to use whatever platform I have to stand up and speak up for the things that I think are important and are just and right in this world. For me, building Trailhead is something we've done. You know, building our platform to be accessible and to be something that gives people that don't have to have computer science degrees ways to venture into technology. And I do believe that the platform that we have here is one that can usher in economic opportunity for people, which is a way to impact change. And I've gone to Capitol Hill, you know, talking about Trailhead and trying to advance the democratization of the degree to be something that an accredited degree is something that is not only held up to only something that, you know, accredited universities can issue. And the reason why is because it's directly connected to Pell Grants and the federal granting systems, and the outcomes are then based on not on or the grants are based on what their completion is. That's a whole nother keynote. Whatever platform you have, you know, whether it's your church, whether it's your kid's school, whether it's your, you know, book club, whether it's your running club, whatever it is, use your platform to act. You know, a run can be something that is a message and a way to stand up and speak up and act for something. So that is like what I wanted to say. And then the most important thing right now, and I hope all of you are registered, but I hope all of you show up by mail, however you do it, to vote, because we are so privileged to live in a country where we do have a democracy and we do have a voice and we do have the ability to, when somebody tells us no, that we are empowered to act. And it's our responsibility to do that. And I do believe that together we can be the change that is so needed in this world today. We can help find answers to these crises, and we can rise from the ashes stronger. And so that's the end of my prepared remarks. And I wanted to bring it back to gratitude. I have so much just gratitude in my heart, especially Becky DeLoren and Liam Allen here, who helped with this presentation. I fully admit that last minute I was like, I don't want some stock presentation. I want to do something special. I live here. I'm raising my kids here. Like, I love this place. This is my home. And this is like this is the birthplace of resilience. Oakland is so special. You are an incredible community and you are doing incredible things. And I am just so honored to be here with you. And so with that, no more fancy backgrounds. Thank you so much for having me.
Sarah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
What a compassionate, really heartfelt message. And we want to thank you so much. We do
Yes.
have a couple of questions.
Yeah, so we probably only have time for just one question. So, Sarah, so can you speak about the hiring practices that Salesforce integrates to create more diverse hires?
Yeah, so hiring practices are things that are, there's a few aspects to having diversity and inclusion. One is looking in the right places, you know, looking beyond an place, you know, to only look at Ivy League, for example. But we need to go to places where people are. The other is making sure that the job descriptions themselves are inclusive, you know, so looking at the language and the copy and how we're promoting the jobs. Then there's the interview panels, you know, making sure you have diverse representation on the interview panels, and making sure that you have not just interview panels, but all the screening processes. And then also making sure that the place to work is one which feels inclusive. You know, if people don't be if they don't feel they can see what they can be on the inside of a company, they're not going to want to go there as much, right? So there is a lot of things that need to be done. In Salesforce, we're doing these. We have like inclusive hiring practices, content on Trailhead to help fill people up on this, because people need to know. And then we need to hold people accountable. Like, we need to look at the numbers and look at who's a good manager, who's a good hiring manager, who's bringing diversity in, who's maybe bringing diversity in, but they're leaving because they're not treating them well, or making them feel included, or making them feel like they belong once they're there. And, you know, from perfect, we have a lot to learn. And you know, changing the ratios in tech is something which I aspire for us to be able to do. So that's my very high level remarks on that. And Tony Profit, who's our Chief Equality Officer, is also now leading all of our recruiting, which I think is just an incredible statement that it's very important for us to, at the top level, look at equality in everything we do, especially our recruiting.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. So, Sybil, any quick, what do you have have gratitude for?
I have gratitude for Sarah being here and being very authentic in her message. I have gratitude for the community and giving back, and also the different gems that she actually spilled on us regarding her resilience and just standing up and speak and just mean no means that we can. And I really appreciate that message. And just moving forward, you're just such an inspiration. And thank you so much, Sarah. Such gratitude for your message. It was so powerful, so moving. It's bringing tears to my eyes. Just amazing.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.